Yes, my friends, again I say welcome to another episode of John's Sports Corner on the SosoBone Media Network. John, as usual, I will say this, you're leading the boys again on LinkedIn, where viewership is concerned on a week-by-week basis. All new posts that goes up during the week, you sports has still been leading that, which again sends a signal to our community and to the world that sports is embedded in our culture. So let me say welcome again to John's Sports Corner.
Thank you so much, Trevor. And as I like to say, if it's Wednesday, it's time for John Sports Corner on SosoBone Media Network. And a very good afternoon. I just want, before I welcome my fellow Hall of Famer, Len Chambers, into the airwaves with us, I just want to remind you that if you go to Winner's Circle Sports in the SosoBone shop, you can get merchandise that's as listed there, including the great Jamaican Blue Mountain Coffee and warm cake.
Warm.
Just to name a few. Again, a very good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. And I, of course, welcome on the platform my Cricket Hall of Famer, Mr. Leonard Chambers. And for the next several minutes, we'll be exploring Len's book, Through the Years, My Life in Cricket.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to John Sports Corner, Len.
Thank you very much for the invitation to be on your program.
Last Sunday, I think it was, we introduced your book on the radio side, but we didn't have time to cut away the meat and the fat and leave SosoBone.
Okay.
So perhaps the most obvious question I will start with is, what inspired you to write a book about your life on the fields of green?
My inspiration for writing this book started with my son, Ron Chambers, who is a cricket fanatic.
Okay.
He represented the Jamaica national youth team for 5 years.
Okay.
The last 3 years, he was captain. And he traveled with me at an early age to the various cricket grounds, not just in the city, but in rural parishes.
Mm-hmm.
And in his opinion, I have garnered a wide knowledge of the game because of my involvement at the different levels.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he would have seen me playing senior cup cricket, but before that, I was involved in playing for the parish team and Sunday competitions, which were many.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the Carib competition, the Hamilton competition, the Enriquez competition, and the Noel Hilton competition.
Mm-hmm.
And my involvement as a selector at the national youth level for 14 years, my position as manager of the youth team as 12 to 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
Not only was I a member of the selection panel of the Jamaica Cricket Association, I was a selector at the West Indies youth level and also a manager of the West Indies youth team at home and in Pakistan and Bangladesh. And also my administrative experience at the Jamaica Cricket Association level. I served on the Jamaica Cricket Association for 23 years.
Wow.
Started at age 31. I thought I was too young to be a board member. I thought that the board members were retired players. I actually represented Jamaica in 74 and 75, well, I was a Jamaica Cricket Association member. Unheard of. So with this knowledge that my son believed that I possess, he encouraged me to write a book. I was also encouraged by people like Basil Williams, Shotgun Williams, who was the godfather of my son, Lawrence Rowe, Sid Bennett, and a couple of other people were close to me and understand my love for the game and the commitment and my work, not only on the field of play, but to the boardroom of the Jamaica Cricket Association.
Nolan, you mentioned that your son, Rowan, is a cricket fanatic, but sometimes they say the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. How important is it to have put your history, your journey, and memories in a cricket book?
Well, the book reflected on the early years that I was inspired, and it mirrors the phases of my life to where I am. And on this journey, it is my actual involvement. I am the ghostwriter. I wrote the book, got it to the editor, and she did what she had to do. And it is a journey, in my opinion, and based on reviews by a number of people who have actually read the book. They love what I've written. It took them back to the early years. For example, one of the inspiration that I had was when Alfred Valentine returned to Spanish Town, his hometown, after his successful performances in England in 1950. And I recall in short pants watching the motorcade, and to see how the people lined the streets, young, old, women, men, kids. And I said that I would love to have a situation like that, where I'm honored. Of course, that was a thought, right? I'm sure that there are a lot of kids who looked on that day, and they were inspired to know that there's someone from hometown, and not far from where I was living, where he played in the backyard, just like most of the youngsters growing up in
the backyard. John, I think he got his dates mixed up. He said 1950, right?
Yep. Yeah. In the 50s. Alfred Valentine, England was 1950. 1950. Yeah. 1950. He was I think he was getting close to age 20. Right. And he's from Spanish Town. He started his cricket with St. Catherine.
John, I wonder if you know that it's 74 years ago he's talking about.
Yes. We're getting on.
Because
I need to ask you this, Len. In documenting the book, as you played and as the days went by, did you document things in order to be able to compile now, or just memory?
No. I just by memory, and I look back at the early years, and I chronicalize it in a way that take me to the phases from backyard to going to the country in Park Hall at age 9 and playing with bamboo root ball and bamboo bat and coconut ball. And then playing Markfield cricket, that is in a competition organized by St. Catherine Parish, and getting into the parish team in the Nethersold competition. And the estate, I played 8 years at the estate level. So I was privileged to have seen the players from rural Jamaica, their capability and how talented they were. And they were comparable to the players in the city. It's just that they never got the exposure from the media, electronic or printed. So they were at a disadvantage, and some of the better players would journey to Kingston to play for clubs in Kingston. Some would stop by if they're coming from, say, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Westmoreland. They would stop by St. Catherine. But the talent existed then was unbelievable. These guys were not exposed to coaching, but their natural ability.
Oh, yes.
It was great to look at the numbers of players. You're not talking about 1, 2, or 3 players in a team. You're talking about 2/3 of the team members. They were capable. They were good players, good batsmen, good fast bowlers, good wicket keepers, and of course, they got the encouragement that was necessary for them to perform by management. Because in earlier years, you play the game of cricket, you're going to get a job at an estate company or one of those commercial companies or industrial companies. In Kingston, we have the business house cricket, which was known as the Enriquez competition. And then there's the box side. So cricket was the game, was the sport along with football. They were the 2 major sports. And some of us who play cricket and football, we're in a club, we play table tennis. You know, and in those early years, it was wonderful. I'd love to relive those years.
Let's talk about, Len, your commute by rail in the early days. Why was this necessary?
Oh my. Okay. As a member of the St. Jago Youth Club, a club that was founded by Dr. Vivian Tennant. He was the MO at the health center in Spanish Town. The health center is close to the hospital, the Spanish Town Hospital. And there was a wasteland there. It was waste, I'm telling you, and gravel, and we used to say maca, or maca, you know, and we work on the ground. We're able to play cricket and then football there. You're talking about, maybe I was about 11 at the time. And Dr. Tennant, you will observe, John, that a number of people call me Vijay. And this name was given to me by Dr. Vivian Tennant. He said that I reminded him of Vijay Mandraker. And in those early times, you were respected as a cricketer, whether you are an up and coming cricketer at an early age. People look up to you, and as a result, the players, knowing that they were looked upon as good sportsmen and to be someone that would be admired by the community, as a youth club, we were able to have that bond. Now, my first trip on a train was an all-island youth event. It was held at Carter Park in Port Antonio. And I remember 2 players from my club were selected to play in the cricket match. There are other events involving young ladies and so on, because it was a youth club event. And 2 of us, Tom McFarlane was the other player. And we journeyed from Spanish Town by rail to Port Antonio. No, at the senior cup level, St. Catherine Cricket Club was managed by Bernal and Sugar Estate. They took care of everything. Practice ball, match balls, umpires, fees, transportation, and so on. Now, when we played at Railway Oval, the transportation would be provided, but the driver would stay all day. But when we played at Railway, the driver just took us to the ground. And then after the game, we took the train back to Spanish Town.
Okay.
Those were the days. Wonderful. I have a story.
I played football at the Railway Oval.
Yes. Love the ground, love the ground on a match day, whether it's cricket or football. This place, is packed. You can't get another person going into the stand. It was packed with not just the people who work with the railway, but people in the nearby
community.
Well,
The surrounding community.
As a person who went to Titchfield, I can, when you mentioned Carter Park, it just ring a bell.
All right. You remember Owen Mitchell? Okay.
As a matter of fact, did you mention Lawrence Rowe?
No, I'm just talking about Titchfield.
Yeah.
Owen Mitchell. Owen Mitchell's from Port Antonio. And he was one of the players that was involved in that event. And we were like 12, 11, 13, young age. You mentioned about Lawrence Rowe. Yes, I spoke to Lawrence Rowe just today.
Really?
We talk regularly. And it is in the book too. John will tell you.
Yeah, before we touch on Lawrence, Len, I know you had a trip. You went to England.
Yes.
How did the England trip help in the development of your cricket?
All right, okay. In 1965, the selection panel headed by Alan Ray with J.K. Holt and Esmond Kentish.
My dad's good friend.
Yeah, okay. Then they selected 3 players, sponsored by Esso Standard Oil, to go to England, Warwickshire County, where we were based. Now, Western Sugar Company wanted to send a player that was good enough to meet the qualification. And Rex Suku was added to the 3. So it was 4 of us. I remember when I was told about going to England, it was a friend, Hedley Thompson, who was working with the Gleaner Company, and I was working at the head office of the United Fruit Company. And he was coming from the press conference, and he told me that I'll be going to England. And of course, I asked him, "Are you going to pay the fare?" And he said, "No, you're being sponsored by SLU, Koyen and Rexuku." The following morning, I can't forget, the following morning, my neighbor knocked at the gate and said, Leonard Chambers, you're in the newspaper. I say, 3 for England. And it was the 3 of us, Rudolph Koyen, Herman Bennett, and myself. And then when I got to the bus terminal, so the people who I travel with at the bus, they had their Gleaner to show me. And it was something, believe you me, knowing that I'm going to England 1965. England? I've never been on a plane before. I didn't even have a passport, So I was overwhelmed by that. Now in England, the whole idea of where you're going is that we signed a covenant that we should not accept any contract with league teams, because we were expected to come back to Jamaica and play for another 2 years at least. And we were looked upon as the best two batsmen. When we were first selected, we were considered the two best young batsmen in the country. This is what we're told. And we're going there for development, to get the experience of English conditions, and that we'll be playing a lot of cricket. And we did play a lot of cricket, because we played in the minor cup, minor county league on weekdays, and then on a Saturday we played in the Birmingham League. And in the Birmingham League, you have a lot of former test players and international players. So the experience was pretty good. And we were helped on the way by professionals at Warwickshire County. And then there was a coach by he played for Lucas, and then he went to Worcester, and then from Worcester he went to Warwickshire. Right? His name was Derry Taylor, and he was a very good player at Lucas at the senior cup level, and he was one of the coaches at Warwickshire. So he arranged matches for us in the Birmingham League, and also charity games on Sundays, where you are, associated with international players from different parts of the world. And this was a very good experience for us. I thought to myself that I learned a lot playing in the conditions, and that so much was expected of us. So we took in all that we could in terms of playing on pitches in the atmosphere where balls move, swinging in the air, and so on. And this was the purpose, to develop our game. And I thought that it was beneficial to us. After that, Lawrence Rowe and Castell folks went, but they did not play in the minor counties or in the league. They played in charity games, where they were able to associate themselves with international, present and past international players.
And I ask you this, Cecilia, I know a few years ago I was talking to Lance Gibbs, and Lance talked about playing in England, how high tide and low tide affected the wicket from hour to hour. And I found it very interesting how he was able to talk about this kind of, in terms of his bowling and the bowling changes. And as I said, the high tide, I never even think that high tide and low tide affected our wicket.
John, it's a good thing you mentioned that. My first game in the Birmingham League, I was playing for a club named Star Bridge, and played in Worcester. Right, Worcester is a neighboring county to Warwickshire. And when I got there, I was introduced to the president. The secretary met me, and I was introduced to the members of their executive, and then to the players. And it was a nice reception. When I got on the field, I was the first change bowler. It was pretty cold. It was in May, and it was cold. No, I've never bowled for so long in one spell. No, I bowled 27 overs, and they were consecutive overs.
Ooh.
No break. About it, that I led the team off the field, because I took 5 wickets, and and when I went to bat, first of all, when I've been bowled 27 overs, in the cold, never bowled that long a spell. And I sat down, the captain came to me and said, "Chambers, number 3. Oh, I couldn't show surprised at that, because it's a coveted position.
Mhm.
3, and I got 50 something, and they had a good crowd. And once players do well, they were rewarded. People would go around with a hat and they put in a little whatever. No, seasoned players would share whatever they earn from the support of the people, saying, thank you for how well you perform. I'm going to put a pound or 10 shilling or what.
That was beside the regular salary, right?
No, we weren't paid. We were not we're non-professional.
It's for free.
We could not have signed up to become a professional. Anyhow, so I was told that if you're a seasoned player, you would share the kitty with the rest of the members. Right? But in your case, it's the first match. Not to share among the players. And when I got back to, we were all staying for us. We were staying at Mr. Taylor's, Larry Taylor's home. I shared it. I shared it with my fellow Jamaicans.
Okay.
Because we're playing on different teams. But the journey to England, it was rewarding. As a matter of fact, when I got back, 3 of us were employed to the sugar estates. Herman Bennett at Caymanas. I was at Bernal Lodge, but I was at the head office in Kingston in a different field. I was in shipping. And Rex Sukui was with Monimus.
Okay.
And there was a match at the end of the regular sugar estate season, the common competition. They would zone the teams. So you have East, West, Central, and Mid-Island. And although the 3 of us never played in the common competition, based on our performances the year before, and the fact that we were considered that good enough to be selected by the Jamaica Cricket Board to go to England, we played. And surprisingly, a Chambers made 82, and another Chambers made 72. No, I made the 82. Right?
Okay.
And the other Chambers, George, he made 72. And there were a lot of people, the other gender, they were now warming to the Chambers that made 82.
Okay.
So they were talking to the Chambers that made 72. We said, oh, you went to England. And that Chambers who made 72 said, oh, yes, went to England. I won't elaborate on that.
But then, since we're talking England, you had an opportunity to play against a great English fast bowler, Freddie Truman.
My God.
Were you at any point intimidated?
Okay. In whatever year it was, we had a trial match at Caymanas Park. And not Park, sorry, Caymanas Cricket Ground. And Wes All was on coaching assignment with the Sugar Estates. And he was allowed to play in the trials. He was on the Jack Hendricks team, and Rudolph Coyen, who is a Hall of Famer himself. Right? And Herman Bennett and myself, we were on Paul McMarcy's team, Eastern Mars. And we were down 15 or 17 for 3. And Herman and myself, because Wizall was firing, also Coyen, because Coyen was pretty quick. And we were 15 or 17 for 3. And we took it to 100 and maybe 70, but we had a partnership of 92. And I got 72 or thereabout. And looking forward, because the Cavaliers, the touring Cavaliers, was Jamaica with all these former English players. Some were current players, some were past players, and some were county. And in that, so I was looking forward. Most people figure that I would have being selected on the senior team, but it wasn't easy because if you have a settled team, the guys are performing well, and they perform at the regional level. You're not going to get a game. Look how well you perform in the trials.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get these guys game because they perform at the highest level that you are aspiring to be at, and they were still active. Anyhow, in those days, you had Jamaica Colts team. The Colts team consisted of players on the fringe. You know, they just missed out, but they were of a young age. So this first game, so I did not get a game at the senior level, but I got a game on the Colts team, captained by Gladstone Robin. And the match was played against the Cavaliers team, big crowd at Monimus, the entire community. You couldn't get in. There was no empty space for anyone. Anyhow, I batted at number 3, and John Arlott, a great commentator.
Yeah.
He was commentating again. I heard this. This is what I was told. So we lost an early wicket, and I walked the wicket number 3. Wow! And the first ball to me, I don't know why I played that shot. I drove the ball according to the guys who were listening. They said, and that was a beautiful extra cover drive by the number 3 batsman Leonard Chambers. But I kept my pose. You know, when I played the shot.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I've never heard so many broken language.
You mean your pose too long?
Yeah. And it was some words I never heard them before. And then he went back, believe you made the next ball, I didn't see it. And Grandison was at the other week, the other hand. He was the other opener, because Gladstone Robbins opened and he got out early.
Mm.
And he came up to me and said, "You saw that ball?" I said, "No, I'm glad you didn't see it. If you see it, I can't ahead." But the next ball, no, after that, no. When Schumann bowled that delivery, you know, to be honest with you, I saw when it was delivered, but I didn't see. I thought he chucked that ball because he was known to chuck deliveries. Oh, he was exceptionally speedy. So the very next ball, my half stump cartwheel, and he run down on me again. Yo, what have you? Man, I've never experienced something like that. It's as if I was happy to leave the field. Believe me, because it was tormenting me. After I played that lovely drive, you, the test bowler, pick up on 300 wickets, it took about 307 wickets. Schumann pick up our 305, John.
300 and I think that's 307, and Gibbs broke it and got 309.
Or something like
that. Yeah.
No, he forced you to start wearing glasses, right?
No. Certainly that second ball, which I did not see that ball. Yeah, I saw when it left his hand, but I didn't see what happened after. This is why Grandison asked me if I saw the delivery, because if I had seen it, I would be trying to maybe get behind it.
Yeah.
Then the pace of it would be too quick for me. Would have knocked off my head. I wouldn't be here on your lovely program. No, I would not have been. You know?
I know you played first class cricket, you played for Jamaica. Do you remember your first class debut?
Yes. Okay. The last trial match to select the Jamaica team, in those days, they put the names on the board. Right? So I remember I was at the wicket. Who was batting with me? Don't quite remember who was batting with me. But Larson Matthews was the bowler.
Mm-hmm.
Now, up to that time I played 3 times for the Jamaica Colts team, twice against the Touring Cavaliers, different years. And no, four times. Twice against the Touring Cavaliers, once against the Touring Australian team, and against Worcester County. And Blossom Matthews played in 3 of those games. So I'm now looking at the board when they're now putting the names.
Mm-hmm.
You had Herman Bennett. Then you had Square before O comes before H, no. Then me. So I heard from the grandstand, Chambers, you're in. Remember I'm at the wicket, facing up to Lawson Matthews, the bowler, and Lawson stopped when he heard the sound, Chambers, you're in. He didn't want me to lose my concentration. So he stopped.
Yeah.
And then I looked and I saw my name. So when I got up, the fall at the end of the over, I got a single and I got up to Lawson Matthews saying, and he said, Vijay, he said, Vijay, I didn't want you to lose your concentration and lose your wicket because I know that you will be happy. I was also hoping that my name will be there. And then to be in that group of 13, in those days it was 13,
Mm-hmm.
we went to Antigua, we played the Combined Islands. I was hoping to get into the team. And like most people who are not selected on a team and they're in a squad, they strongly believe that they're better than certain individuals. but the more I got involved in cricket, and then when I became a selector, I then realized, no, if players are performing and they're performing above you, and don't care where you bat or bowl in the trials, those guys' consideration will have to be given to them first.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went to Antigua, and I was in the 11, Jack Hendricks captained that team. I wasn't in the 11, but I was happy when I had to go onto the field. Somebody left, and I went to be there. I have on my Jamaica cap. Great feeling. No, what was surprising when I made my debut, we went to Trinidad after we left Antigua, because there were two matches we played away from home. And in the nets, I batted early after Teddy Griffiths and Matt Morris as openers, and then Ron Edley batted at 3. And then I batted before Foster. I said to myself, partly I could be in this team for the next game. Okay. Well, when this net session finished, Herman Bennett, Renford Pinnock are my teammates. And they said, boy, this is what we wanted, man. 3 of us from St. Catherine in the same team. Surprisingly, when we refreshed ourselves and we were now in the dressing room and the team was named, when the team is being named, each individual is listening out for his name. Nobody else's name. So I then said, oh boy, we have certainly achieved our aim. And then Penny said, Renford Pinnock, the great Renford Pinnock, said, I'm not in the team. Not in the team. I don't see myself replacing Pinnock because Pinnock was ahead of me. About our years playing cricket in Spanish Town, we playing different competitions, and he was ahead of us. And he was a certainty in the Jamaica team. And I try to think about what people said, that if you are from rural Jamaica, you're at a disadvantage. And it's as if the selectors then would have been Alan Ray. He was the chairman of the selection committee and he was manager of the team. And you had Jackie Hendricks there, Easton Morris. They were senior people in the selection panel. And I said, I was happy. was so disappointed that Pino was not in it. I couldn't believe it. We went for Pino. And I don't have to call names who weren't as good as him as a batsman. And I know that in the first, I didn't make any runs. I made 5 and ducks. But I know that I got the worst of decisions. It's like the players in the dressing room could have heard when the ball hit the bat onto the pad. But that's what it was like in those days. But it was, although I was happy to have been selected, I wasn't too happy that Pinnock was not in the team, because it was a disservice to him. Because up to that time, he had performed so well for Jamaica. And then, of course, in the book, there's a story about Pinnock.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't mind, I could talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
I was going to ask you about Penny.
Yeah.
John is a young man, you need to get
Right.
information.
Okay.
Yeah, the prettiest cricketer I know.
Yeah, man. He was such a great personality. In the Hamilton competition, Olympic Gardens, they won the Hamilton Cup. And the beauty about Hamilton competition, it was like a community competition. And 2 of us were selected from my team, and I was the captain. And when we got to the ground, went out and looked at the pitch. And, we're saying, boy, should you win this toss, skip, send opposition to bat? I said, yes, because it was one of these tough clay, not level pitch, right? So bumpy. And they had some wicked, in those days we said wicked fast bowlers, because a couple of them were chuckers. And they were chucking. I batted at number 3 and Penny batted at number 4. And this is the thing about Pinnock. From early years to later years, I was captain of St. Catherine. When I'm writing out the batting order, the 2 openers, I skipped 3 and put 4. Penny always wanted to bat at 4. So I went out and I was batting. This was in the second over. We lost 2 wickets. And a guy, I think it was Alvin Rose, who was bowling to Penny. I told Penny what it was like. I faced maybe about 2, 3 deliveries, and I saw that it was variable. The bounce was variable. And I told Penny, and the first ball that Penny received, you remember in the good early years when we kill a foul?
Mm-hmm.
And it was there, and blood down.
It took 5 minutes to die, right?
Yeah, it'd be complete silence. And then I gathered my cricket gear, Penny's cricket gear. I'd still on my wife, and we went to the back of the car. I remember the car that was driven by the secretary of the Hamilton Board. I can't forget that guy, thick glasses. We used to have our meetings at Hyatt Drugstore and Spanish Town Road. That is another story. When I have to go to meetings, I have to let them know that the meeting must finish at a certain time, because I have to get the Bronx or the Western Flybus. If I don't, I won't be able to get back to Spanish Town. No, as I said, I put all our cricket gear in the car and we went to the Kingston Public Hospital. And when we got there, it took a long while before Penny was looked at. And I remember the secretary, Brown was his name, Mr. Brown. He was upset, truly upset, why the young man is there and he's going to be left here to die. He shouted and he shouted and shouted. By this time, Pinnock was still lying in my lap. He was sitting on a bench and lying and head in my lap, and blood all over. We eventually, he was attended to eventually, and I didn't go back to the ground. We did not go back. Something was to an award. I think I made a century and I was to be presented with a bat, but I didn't go back. We went straight to Spanish Town. Pinnock was living amongst Adler Street, and I was living at Rivali Avenue. Maybe a block separated us. And I knew his family well, sisters, brothers, and his parents. They were familiar with my parents. But on the way, Penny still, like he was unconscious, although he was bandaged up his whole face. And I said to myself, what am I going to say to his parents? You know, Blossom, his sister, Joe, his little brother, and his father and mother. And when I got there, Blossom was at the gate. And when he saw Renford, he said, Leonard, what happened to my brother? My dear, and I had to explain. By this time, Penny revived and said, no, it's not his fault. It's his fault. That's Penny. He's like that. Even if Penny is right, he will tell you that he's wrong. You know, to treat someone, right? And then, you know, we talked for a good while, and Mr. Brown assured him that the board will do whatever is necessary to let him be comfortable. And then I told my parents, and they went home to offer their sympathy. But it was a sudden day. To see Penny on the ground, shaking, had to be lifted off the field into a car. I'm there with him. We couldn't change our cricket shirt and put everything in the trunk. And it was a day that every now and then I think about it vividly, as I've seen it happen. I'm at the other end and seeing flatten the ground. Yeah.
As you look back, Led, looking back on your career, what might you have attributed to being in and out of the team over the 10, 11, 12 years?
It was 1965 to 75, 9 years. But if you were to look at the squad, I'm always with a squad of 30. And we would go to the other islands. And I don't play a game. I recall being in Guyana. And usually, you know, the night before, there's a cocktail at wherever we're playing at our ambassador's home. When we're in Guyana, I don't know if we had that. So we had an embassy there, but it was held at the Prime Minister's home. And Basil Butcher said to me, Chambers, you play tomorrow? Every time you come here, they make you 12 man. I said, I'll be playing tomorrow. Like I remember that, you know, going to Guyana 3 times. Well, as a player that I've been there, being manager to make a youth team and West Indies youth team. But as a player, I went there 3 times. And once I played. I went to Trinidad again. My first match was in Trinidad, and my last match was in Trinidad. You know, in those 8 matches. But I was always in the spot. And then I realized when I became a selector that, you know, selectors, I might come into a selection meeting and I'll say, I want Tom in my team, and I will feel strongly about Tom being in the team. But the other 3 selectors will convince me that, no, this person is more ideal for the situation. Whether it's a bowler, wicketkeeper, or batsman. And it's when I became a selector, I realized that being a selector is not easy, you know. And one of the, as a selector, it's somewhat excruciating for me talking to players when they come to camp 28 and only 13 or 14 are going to be selected. All the other guys, they're starting to cry. Tears start to come from their eyes. And all of them couldn't be selected. It happened to a lot of players. I've seen it happen to people like Albert Perry in 1985. He thought that he should have been in the team, you know, and Tears, his name was not mentioned. So many players, you know, and especially at the youth level, when you think about guys being called to trials, you're talking about the camp is 26, 28. But there are thousands of guys out there.
Yes.
Mhm.
The Edla Cup and the World Jamaica and the city teams, and there are guys out of the school system who are eligible. And to be in that group, you're fortunate. I'll tell you, on Saturday, when I went to watch this game, and there's a player, he's from St. Mary, and apparently told everyone that he should, this was between 1985, 86, 87. He figured that he should have been in the team. He came to trial, but never made the team.
Mhm.
And he would tell people, oh, he should have been in the team. And he wanted to see me. He really wanted to see me. So there was a big discussion. And everybody, when they saw him talk to me, said, Mr. Chambers, he believes he's still an under 19 player because this guy is now in his 50s.
Yeah.
But looking back, as a 17, 18-year-old, that he should have been in the team. Up to today, we talk again. He called me and he said something about Kanai telling him that he should have been in the team. I said, no. Ron Kanai was a consultant. He's a selector, but he was a consultant. He was a coach and a consultant to the selectors. He was not a selector. And because Kanai is a professional, if you're not in the team, Kanai is not going to tell you that you should be in the team. Kanai would never do that.
Mhm.
Because he comes up here now, he's not a bad player, but he tried to compare himself with somebody like Larry Williams.
Mhm.
And when I pointed out to him, Larry was different from you, and yes, you're good, you're capable, and there are different years that you could have made the team. But those particular years, we had so many competing for that position that you wanted. And, I like in the end, he was a bit upset, and others who know him realized that he has been carrying this thing with him for years. And then he called me today because I'm in a group with the St. Mary Cricket Association. They are having an event, a big event that in St. Elizabeth. They are and St. Mary. Jimmy Adams will be honored, and some other folks. Wayne Davis, you remember Wayne Davis?
Mhm.
Man, yeah, and some other top people from St. Mary. And he called me and he apologized. I said, no, you don't have to apologize. You're expressing your views then. You never abused me, but you're dear and you never leave me. You just keep saying, Mr. Chambers, I should have been in the team. And although I explained to him at the time, he never really absorbed it the way he should have.
Yeah.
But in the end, today is Wednesday, and it's Saturday. And for him to apologize, I said, don't worry. I said that I've had that experience. Fathers call you, especially when you're chairman, and I have the youth selection committee. Parents call me. They call me, why their son should be in the team. And they give me reasons why. But parents feel this way about their kids, and the kids themselves also want to play. And, it is a situation that I was told that I should expect to happen, especially at the youth level.
Yes.